Alright, let's see how this works out because I'm filming on my computer and you're on a Mac. Yeah, this isn't gonna work. Every time I move, the camera wiggles. Dang it. Okay, this is better. I'm not gonna say it's the best, but it's better. We have significantly lower quality because we are on a computer and there is not good lighting. So, okay, this video is gonna be a chatty video, basically just, I would like to share a library haul that I got this weekend because I'm very excited for these books. And I'm gonna kind of pitch this as like a Booktube made me do it. So let me explain. You guys have probably seen a bunch of videos on Booktube. The Booktube made me do it, and people go out and buy hyped books from Booktube. But what I wanted to do was kind of put a spin on it, and because I'm not purchasing brand new books and because I don't like to purchase books based on like Booktube hype, because that has not worked out well for me in the past, I decided to put a big pile of books on hold at the library based on Booktuber recommendations and Booktuber videos. And maybe some of these will sound interesting. I'll tell you the little bit that I know about them. I'll tell you what about them made them interesting, and I will tell you which channel shared it or spoke about it, and I'll leave them in the description box so you can look at their channel. Okay, so the grand total is 5 books. 2 of them have not come in, and they will not come in for a while because people have checked out. These ones were just a matter of someone finding them in the library or transporting them between libraries. So I've got 5 books, and they range from nonfiction to short novels to a classic to longer novels. So let's just jump into it. The first book is Hiroshima by John Hersey, and this I think is the more popular edition. It was originally written in 1945 or 46, either the year of or the year after the 1946. The atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. Wow. And what John Hersey did was tell the stories of 6 different individuals that lived through the bomb and the aftermath and the radiation, etc., etc. I think this is the more popular edition where it has a 5th chapter that was published in 1985, 40 years after. Yeah, 40 years after. So John Hersey tells the stories of 6 different individuals, and then a conclusion chapter. It's just described as him going back to Hiroshima in search of the people that he told the stories of. As you can see, I'm currently reading this, actually. So far, I am enjoying it. It's fair to say. It is not exactly what I imagined it to be, but I, overall, am happy to be reading it, and I find myself picking it up multiple times a day. The writing style is very straightforward, just telling you the stories of the 6 individuals, and I like how it bounces back and forth between stories. One chapter was kind of like an introduction story about who all the people were, and then also what they were doing. It's all of them in the first stage of their story also. I enjoyed how it wasn't just a chapter on one person and a chapter on another person and then a chapter on another person. So, for example, it bounces like every other paragraph or so, or every other page, up until the point of this person's story when they saw the flash, up until this point of this person's story where they saw the flash. So, when you start a new chapter, you know you're going to progress further in the story, and each chapter is a glimpse at what this person was doing at the same exact time. Whereas if it was a chapter written by one person, a chapter on another person, it wouldn't be as fluid as it is. It would be very choppy. I also want to say about the writing that he does an excellent job at reminding you that these are not just statistics. Maybe it's because I'm so young, and maybe it's because this is not talked about where in the schools I grew up in. He does a really good job at telling you and reminding you that these are real people. This is not just a statistic. This is not just a historical event. These are real people. And he gives you details of their lives that remind you constantly, these people are you, these people could be you. So that's very moving, and that is mostly why I'm enjoying this. So the reason I heard about this was from Steve Donahue, because he did a mail haul of a biography of the author, and then started talking about Hiroshima, and giving it not a review, but telling you about the novel and his experience, and that made me really want to read it. Okay, so then the second book that Booktube made me pick up from the library is Grief is the Thing with Feathers by Max Porter. So, I have already read this, so let me tell you what I know about it. This is Max Porter's debut novel. I heard about it on the Booktube channels. Jen Campbell and Lauren Wade. This is interesting. It is an interesting format. It bounces between free verse, prose, poetry. It's definitely not your typical novel. It is about grief. It's about a family who's lost a mother. And it's about a unlikely character named Crow. And he's an interesting character. He's not a person. You actually don't know if he's real or if he's imaginary. But the effects that Crow has on the family and helping them through their grief is very real. And the argument can be made that Crow is grief by the title. Grief is the Thing with Feathers. I watched a video on YouTube of Max Porter talking about Grief is the Thing with Feathers. I highly recommend you watch that video. I'll link it below. And then before you go into this, because it really helped me understand what Max Porter is doing with this. It really helped me understand the motivations behind it. And for some reason, I feel like I would have absorbed this a lot better. I wouldn't have been as lost in the beginning as I was. I'm a very literal person, and Crow is very not literal. So that was a struggle for me. Overall, I do really enjoy the book. I really should reread it. And I recommend it to other people too. I'm probably not selling this book very well, but if you like things to be kind of like magic realism, where magical elements or non-realistic elements are just taken at face value and they can have a meaning or they can't have a meaning. If you like that type of thing, I highly recommend this. If you struggle with that type of thing, I still recommend you read it. I don't discount the book, but watch the video first, and that'll put you in a good mindset to read it. The third book that I picked up from the library is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. Somewhat of a famous book, if I can say that. It is about a older man and his passion and love for a younger girl. I don't know how old they are. I don't know anything about their relationship. I know as much as Booktube has told me, which is about an older man and his passionate love and obsession for a younger girl. So this is from Strip Cover Lit. And it was in, I think, a haul that Adrian did. And he read the first chapter, which is about a paragraph. I can show you. It's very small. And I was hooked It is very uncomfortable, but very beautiful. The subject matter, uncomfortable. The tension, uncomfortable. The prose and the writing is beautiful. And I think that's the whole point. I think that's representative of their relationship. It's uncomfortable and it's tense, but it's actually beautiful. And something tells me I'm gonna love this. Okay. Then the fourth novel and the fifth novel are from the same channel. The one I'm going to talk about now was from a wrap-up video, and then the fifth one was a, recommendation in the comment section to me. The first book that I picked up from a wrap-up video is Overton by Adam Thorpe from Old Blues Chapter and Verse. And I think it was the cover that made me Goodreads it and read the synopsis. This book is about a village in England called Overton, and it's essentially just a chronicling of time of this town. And what made me want to read it is there seems to be a common thread through 300 years of history, and there seems to be consistently a thread through every decade, through every amount of time covered, and that really intrigued me when I read the synopsis. And then also, I was interested in the way that it's told. It says that he builds his narrative out of diaries, sermons, drunken pub conversations, letters, and film scripts, each of them evoking the style and substance of its particular era, and all threaded through with recurrent motifs and images. So there seems to be a thread going through this whole novel between its subject matter and also its themes and its images and the way that it's written. And that's really exciting to me. I love that. I've always loved stories told in unconventional ways, such as in script or in verse or through overhearing conversations, yada yada. So I was really excited to be able to read this copy from my library. And hopefully I like it so much I can put this on my shelf, because I don't know why, but I love this cover. I don't know. It kind of looks like, the U kind of looks like a paperclip, and it kind of looks like a docket, or you know what I mean? Like a pamphlet, like the paperclip is putting all of the documents together, and they all are about Overton. That's intriguing to me. So, and then last but not least was a recommendation from also Chapter and Verse, and that is Oscar and Lucinda by Peter Carey. I also heard him talk about Peter Carey, which inspired me to want to pick up a Peter Carey novel, and it clicked when I Goodreadsed it. Oscar and Lucinda is a Peter Carey novel, so he did recommend me one. So that was very cool. This was recommended to me based on I believe it was my Booktube newbie tag when I talked about my favorite book, which is Strange the Dreamer, and I talked about why, and I was explaining that I fell in love with it because the prose is so lyrical and her descriptions are beautiful. I don't care if they're drawn out, they're beautiful. And then I love that knowing the characters' motivations. I like knowing why characters are doing the things they're doing. And I like when their decisions and their actions line up with their history and their motivations. I don't know, it makes them real people. Characters are real people to me. So, based on that, he said, you need to read Oscar and Lucinda, and I said, okay, and I put it on hold at my library, and I actually wish I owned this because I think it's a beautiful cover. And then I'll read you the synopsis because I think it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever read, and it is about the cover. So, One morning just before Good Friday in the year 1866, the residents of Boat Harbor, Australia saw something incredible. A small church made of iron and glass was being rafted up their river. A young man was sitting alone inside the church, his face peeled raw by sunburn. His name was Oscar Hopkins, a recently defrocked Anglican priest. He was waving his hands in gestures that appeared mysterious, even magical, but that were actually his efforts to ward off the frantic dragonflies trapped inside the glass. They had the wrong intelligence to grasp the nature of the glass. They bashed against nothing, as if they were created only to demonstrate to Oscar Hopkins the limitations of his own understanding, his ignorance of God, and that the walls of hell itself might be made of something like this. Unimaginable, contradictory, impossible. Okay. Excuse me, that is one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. First of all, he's funny. To the people of Boat Harbor, Australia, they see this strange thing coming up the river and a man waving his arms around, and to them, with no context, it appears mysterious or magical. But in actuality, he's being dive bombed by dragonflies trapped in this glass building with him. And then there's a metaphor for the dragonflies that is beautifully written, and that also, in a non-obvious info-dumpy way, I should say in an unobvious and not info-dumpy way, reveals to you what Oscar is thinking, what is going on in his life. You know, it gives you a hint of, like, who is this guy, you know? I'm just so excited for this one. I'm saving this one for last because I'm hoping I'm, like, saving the best for last. And I really just wanted to show these because I am very excited about the prospects of this being, like, an all 5-star library haul. Like, you know when you get a group of books and you just feel really good about them? There's none of them that you think you're gonna like less than the others. There's none of them that you're only semi-excited about. Like, I'm excited about all of them. I wanted to talk about them because if you've read any of these, please comment down below. Please tell me what you think about them. Based on these, if you have any recommendations, I will check them out of my library tomorrow. So throw recommendations at me. Throw conversations at me. You can find me on Instagram, which is not bookish, it's just me. Sometimes with a little bit of books thrown in. Or you can find me on Goodreads. See what I'm reading, see what's on my TBR, and see what's on my have read. So we can have conversations about that too, if you would like. Anyways, thank you so much for hanging in there. I hope I did these books justice. I will hopefully have a wrap-up video that contains all 5 books at the end of the month, and then we can talk about them further. But thank you, everyone, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.